Now, when it comes to Drake and Kendrick Lamar, as one is having a tour that is at max capacity every single night, and the other guy's Anita Max Win tour went so bad that they had to cancel it and give out refunds, well really, if you've noticed right now, with all this happening for Drake, something for the biggest loser in hip-hop is very off. And now what I am referring to is that after managing to stay and be in the public eye ever since Not Like Us dropped a year ago and just trying to get attention over and over again to restore his career in the most desperate ways possible, well right now, for the first time since Kendrick Lamar changed the rap game forever with his diss tracks, which everyone is celebrating the victory of, Drake is nowhere to be found at the moment, and he is showing that he is really defeated because he is doing the one thing that nobody has thought we would ever see from him, which is just being totally and completely silent. And now with this, what we can tell is that over everything else, Drake himself has ran out of ways to keep dragging everything out and has finally realized that maybe after all, he truly is done and that he really is the loser in this entire beef. And now before we go any further into what all of this actually means and what may be going on with Drake right now, as we have not heard from him in what feels like the longest time that we have since the beef has ended, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. It helps me out a ton. And now as we are trying to reach 100,000 subscribers, and we are so close, be sure to subscribe to help us get there and leave a like while you're at it. And so now with that said, when it comes to Drake, right now for the first time in literally over a year at this point, we are seeing something that is completely unprecedented from him in this era, which is that for the longest time that we have seen, and with a noticeable amount of time at that, when it comes to anything that could have any sort of connection or trace back to Drake, and just any attempt that he could want to try and stay relevant and even restore and settle up the beef in his eyes, well, whether we want to look at actual music, crash outs, or any sort of diss, subliminal, or narrative that he is trying to send to Kendrick Lamar or anybody near him, there has been absolutely nothing from the guy. And really what this is telling us is that for Drake, who no matter what and no matter how bad everything has seemed, just continued to yap, run his mouth, and just grasp onto anything he possibly could for any sort of relevance, well right now, and shockingly for Drake's own standards, what Drake is doing is finally taking the advice to some extent that everybody said he should have right after the beef to actually try and save his career when that was still on the table. And what I am referring to right now is that Drake is seemingly inside and he is not trying to be at the center of the most embarrassing and extensive outburst we have seen in all of hip-hop history. And for what we know, he is taking some sort of a break, as again, we are seeing the ultimate sign of defeat from Drake, which is nothing else than silence. And really, with Drake being at this point, for how desperate and obnoxious he has really been for over a year now, which we have all seen what he has been doing time after time. I mean, if you're watching this video, I don't even have to tell you how pathetic this downfall has been. But really, what's so shocking now is that for the guy who has treated himself more like an influencer in personality than an actual artist and rapper, for him to just not be attention-seeking in any regard of the word, that speaks the most volume about where he is at and what could really be going on. And now really, as the last thing that we saw from Drake happened right when Kendrick Lamar started the Grand National Tour, and as Kendrick has continued to humiliate Drake for the awful choices he has been making for so long during this experience, well in response to Kendrick's latest move at him, which we all saw on stage, all Drake could even do then was post weird subliminal messages that were alluding to things that were so far in the past, that between how far they were in the past and how irrelevant they are just in terms of how random the things he was trying to point out were, in any way you were counting it, they wouldn't give him any sort of an edge in another back and forth against Kendrick, despite how he was trying to position these subliminals. I mean, I think we can actually say that for once, Drake really may have been laughed out of the room, because it seems like he has realized how pathetic the reaching to try and take down Kendrick Lamar has gotten. And now with all this happening, what this really is a sentiment to is first off the fact that with the Grand National Tour and with the success that's happening with it, which already with just a few shows has already earned more than most rap tours ever have, and at this point is going to be well and beyond the most successful tour in hip-hop ever, which will surpass Drake's It's a Blur tour with how successful it has been and with how much it's bringing in as a whole. I mean, with this, which really for Drake, it's his last record that's about to go under. I mean, what we can see is that Kendrick Lamar is running an entire genre and winning the numbers game within a way that nobody ever has. And I think with this tour just being such definitive proof that nobody has as much influence and pull for people to actually come and support a rapper live than Kendrick Lamar. Because again, with the turnout Kendrick is seeing, it is the most clear indication of who actually is running things. I mean, from the tour which has put everything over the top, to everything else that Kendrick is just winning with
so easily, like even on the charts in Luther for example, which has not even been challenged for a #1 and is about to stay at this spot unmatched for 12 weeks. And in that, despite Drake trying to force Nokia into becoming a massive song that it was never supposed to be, after Drake really did so much with the whole extra IMAX music video to try and roll out this song and make it the biggest moment it possibly could, once again it still failed awfully compared to Luther, which has been untouched at this #1 spot for almost 12 entire weeks, which really is unheard of just in the charts and in music in general. And really, between both of these things, which have really been the biggest indicators to Drake that it's no longer his era and that it's not coming back. While he won't admit it, I think Drake knows that he is out of options, and really for the first time, he is totally and completely giving up. And really for Drake, why he is taking this so horribly to the point that we haven't even heard from him recently, that he's realized, despite all the ridiculous games and tricks he has tried to pull right in front of us, that the timer and clock has really ran out, and hip-hop is going to remember this moment forever as the back and forth that Drake lost everything from and that everybody learned to never mess with Kendrick Lamar from. Because as in addition to this tour, as we have now reached the 1-year anniversary mark of the most important and most watched back and forth in all of hip-hop, as all the major Kendrick Lamar and Drake diss tracks released within such a short span of time all just turned 1 year old. I mean, everybody has been re-experiencing and looking back at what it felt like to be within this moment that truly was unlike anything else we have ever seen. And all over the place, everybody has been talking about who actually won this thing and what the outcome of the beef actually meant. And again now, as everybody is once again revisiting amazing records like Not Like Us, or even remembering how Kendrick Lamar changed the course of hip-hop with one of the best strategies and most effective disses we have ever seen with something like Meet the Grams. Aside from the delusional and angry people who still support Drake and are still trying to move the goalposts anywhere to make him look decent, nobody still thinks this guy won. And even when we talk about that, showing how lost Drake and everybody for that matter around him is, I think both Ak and Maul have really put best into perspective how bad everything is for the guy, and that Drake has been nowhere to be found even for them, because these guys are spiraling more than ever. Because as these guys have been running around aimlessly as the anniversary of the beef just happened and they are trying to reshape and reframe what we all saw, I mean, the stuff these guys are saying, and especially Maul, is just some of the most ludicrous ways I've ever seen people trying to cope than ever. Because for example, with Maul trying to debate DJ Head and then embarrassing himself by showing how biased and ridiculous he has been about this entire beef and Drake as a whole, I mean, at the same time as Drake literally has nothing to say, somehow things have only got worse, because for somebody like Maul, who we know is friends with Drake, with him just embarrassing himself so bad, and also Drake and OVO as a result, by saying such ridiculous things that Drake didn't lose the battle, but the battle lost him. I mean, that may be the worst quote in the entirety of hip-hop history, and it's one of the most delusional and embarrassing things we have ever heard, even in this time where Drake has been more delusional than anybody you could possibly imagine. And again, with all of these guys who have been the spokespeople and biggest cheerleaders for Drake reaching new levels of coping, I mean, overall, with this mess that is somehow only getting messier by the ridiculous takes that both people like Maul and academics have been making, I think with how everybody is talking about the moments that changed hip-hop forever and all of the stuff that went down within this stretch. And really, when we look at all this and put this into perspective, from the straight embarrassment Drake has gotten from his own people's takes and just the revisit of the beef as a whole, and now with the tour which has sent all of the failure Drake has had over the top, because now everybody is seeing the real impact of what this all did. Well, just as I have said, the clock is really out and Drake has nothing left that he can do, because somehow even with an entire year's worth of moments that he could have created and narratives that he could have shifted, because of him just making all the wrong choices almost and just never being able to grasp the situation and what actually happened, and because of that never actually accept the reality of what happened and move on, I mean, we are still at this point where Drake, despite having a little bit of momentum with Nokia for a little bit of time, he has shown that he has had no real wins and that his career is never going to be in the place it once was. And so really with this, and even for now having to realize that he is 1 year removed from the point where he actually did have some sort of influence and actual top status in hip-hop from what the people thought, I mean, Drake is just realizing more than ever that he is not the man, because even beyond how people perceived the beef, with all of its after effects, which didn't just include Kendrick Lamar winning over the culture the way he did, but again, everything Kendrick did managed to be both as respectful to hip-hop as possible, but still such massive moments that Kendrick literally took over the actual industry of hip-hop and being the leader in this regard as well. Within this year, Kendrick has taken the genre to further heights than Drake ever did, and really anybody has for that matter, because while he has been in this spot, when we look at the Super Bowl, Not Like Us already being one of the biggest hits ever, even just the impact of GNX, which has not left the top 5 since it has released, and adding to all of that an entire stadium tour, I mean, when you put all that together, I think you can understand how everybody, including Drake, is just out of options to try and take down Kendrick and try to get any sort of wins in the rap game at this point. Because even with this tour, as everybody in OVO can't even find one empty seat to try and discredit Kendrick with from this experience, overall, Drake is at a point where despite what he is trying to do and whatever narratives he wanted to push and prove, he is realizing more than ever that he is not the man and that Kendrick Lamar has really won over everything, no matter how much he is trying to discredit it and act like that's not the case. And for Drake, really, for him to just be this silent in this time, this means that he is really defeated because he has nothing to say whatsoever and he has no little petty games or antics that he can try to pull to make himself and his fans even stand behind him. And so because of this, Drake is all out of options and he is now leaving everybody with absolutely nothing, which once again, as this is the first time we are seeing this from Drake since the entire beef ended, this just speaks volumes, and I will say that going forward. Well, I'm sure Drake will be back out sometime and he will try to be more annoying than ever. With him finally being silent, and especially within this time where we have reached the anniversary point of Not Like Us, Meet the Grams, and everything else Kendrick did. Well, finally we can say that Kendrick has really left Drake speechless, and with all of the success happening right now, and there is still more to come, who really knows for how long Drake will not be able to say anything for. And so now with all this said, let me know. What do you think about how silent Drake is right now, and what do you think this is saying as Drake tried to be literally everywhere ever since the beef ended? And now going forward, do you think that this is just a one-time thing from Drake, or do you think he may have actually realized that he lost this thing worse than ever? Now, I can't wait to hear what you have to say about all of this, and now if you made it to this point in the video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. It helps me out a ton. And now with this said, if you want to see how right now, because we just reached the anniversary point of really the most important moment we have ever seen in hip-hop history, arguably, I just made a complete retrospective, which will bring you right back into everything that defined this time, that changed not just hip-hop, but the entire music industry forever. You really don't want to miss this one, so check out the suggested video.